My mother threw me out at 18 when she found out I was pregnant. 5 years later, the father of my daughter walked into my restaurant, and suddenly, my mother wanted back into our lives. I was 18 when I told Victoria Brooks that I was pregnant. She stared at me for several seconds, like I had confessed to setting the house on fire. Then she asked one question, asking if I was keeping it. I said yes, but Victoria did not yell, which somehow was worse. She walked into the kitchen, pulled a chair out, and told me that I had 2 hours to pack my things. When I thought she was bluffing, she handed me a trash bag. "You made an adult decision," she said, "so now you can deal with the adult consequences." I stood there holding that bag, waiting for the part where she would realize that she was my mother. It never came, so 2 hours later, my clothes were stuffed into 2 garbage bags. Victoria carried them to the front porch and told me I had embarrassed her. She said I ruined her plans for my future and turned myself into a problem she was not solving. Then she went back inside while I knocked, but she did not answer. I called her phone, but she declined it as I heard the deadbolt turn. I was 18 and pregnant, sitting on a step with 2 garbage bags. The father was a guy I met during orientation at State University. His name was Alessandro Moretti, although I knew him only as Alex then. He was visiting from Switzerland, and the whole thing had lasted 1 night. We talked and laughed, then made a decision that changed my life forever. I did not know his last name or his number or his school. I did not even know if Alex was his real first name. So when Victoria kicked me out, there was nobody I could call to fix it. I figured I would sleep somewhere for a night and come home later. She changed the locks before dinner, making the next 5 years so much worse. They were harder, yet somehow still mine, as I gave birth to Lily Brooks. I delivered in a hospital with no family beside me at all. Victoria knew where I was and knew I was in labor, but she never came. I ended up in a shelter, then a tiny studio with black mold. Roaches came out whenever the lights went off while I worked diner shifts. Some customers thought a small tip gave permission to touch me at work. I learned how to move away without losing my job every single day. Money was always a math problem, with rent coming first and food second. Lily's needs came before mine, because everything else could wait for later. There were mornings when the bus did not run, so I walked 4 miles. I walked 4 miles to work, while Lily stayed with a sitter nearby. There were weeks when I counted coins before doing laundry at night. There were nights when I ate what was cheapest, so Lily had food. For a while, she slept in a drawer because I could not afford a crib. I hated admitting that, but Lily never knew how broke we were. To her, that drawer was a bed, and I was her whole world. Victoria lived 20 minutes away, in a 4-bedroom house that was spacious. 20 minutes away, yet she never called, and she never visited us. She told relatives I ran to Las Vegas and became a stripper. She told them I made my choices and did not deserve to come back. The worst part was not that she lied, but that people believed her. My sister Denise was the only person who quietly stayed in my corner. She met me at parks and brought Lily clothes from consignment shops. She never admitted it to Victoria because she was terrified of being cut off. I could not blame her because Victoria spent years threatening everyone. So I stopped waiting for rescue and got my GED online at night. When Lily turned 3, I enrolled in college, while finding better waitressing jobs. Slowly things changed as the studio became a safer apartment for us. Food stamp appointments became less frequent as 4-mile walks turned to bus rides. Lily started reading early and could do math before most kids. She was funny, curious, and stubborn in ways that made me proud. Everything I did was for her, until 5 years later when he arrived. Alessandro Moretti walked into the restaurant where I was working that day. I almost did not recognize him in his expensive, dark suit. He looked out of place sitting alone, barely touching his coffee. Then he kept looking at me, trying to solve a hard puzzle. When I brought his check, he asked if I attended State University. My hand stopped moving as I asked him why, with hesitation. "Freshman orientation, 5 years ago," he said, making my stomach drop. He said my full name, not the name people at work called me. I stared at him when he said, "You knew someone named Alex." I could not breathe because I knew that face now much sharper. It was really him, so I asked if he was Alessandro. He looked like the floor disappeared underneath him as he said yes. Neither of us spoke. Then he told me his full name. He had been trying to find me for almost 2 full years. His cousin found an old orientation photo online 2 years ago. Alessandro recognized me immediately, so he hired private investigators to search. He searched social media, paying people to trace all my old records. He spent thousands looking for a woman he thought was lost forever. I did not know what to say until he asked the biggest question. "Do you have a child?" he asked, looking directly into my eyes. I looked at him, and he asked if she was 5, so I nodded quietly. His face went pale as he sat down, looking like a terrified man today. For the first time, Alessandro looked less like a wealthy stranger sitting in my diner. "What is her name?" he asked softly, so I told him it was Lily. He covered his mouth with one hand, and then he started crying in front of me. He told me that his family owned luxury hotels all across Europe back home. He had never known about Lily, or he would have come looking for us immediately. I did not know whether to believe him after 5 long years of surviving alone. 5 years alone made me suspicious, because rich men could say anything to fool you, so I did not hand him Lily's life, but gave him one single photograph instead. Lily was sitting at our kitchen table, holding a small book with both hands. Alessandro stared at it for a long time, whispering that she had his eyes. Maybe she did, and maybe that was why seeing them together later felt strange. Within days, Alessandro arranged everything through lawyers and investigators to handle our situation carefully. He wanted a formal DNA test before making anything permanent for our daughter's safety. He offered money, a lot of it, but I refused most of it straight away. He offered again, so I told him I was not interested in being rescued. That surprised him, as he told me he wanted to take full responsibility now. That sentence stayed with me, as Alessandro began acting like Lily truly mattered to him. He set aside money for her future and talked about education and stability for her. He asked questions about what she liked, instead of showing up with expensive gifts. The first real problem started when Victoria Brooks found out who Alessandro Moretti was. I expected questions eventually, but not her showing up at my front door so soon. She stood on the porch, holding flowers like we lived in a different reality. "Can we talk?" she asked, while looking past me directly into the house today. "I heard about Lily," she said, because news traveled fast when money was involved. She started crying before I even answered, saying she had made mistakes back then. She said she thought about me every single day and wanted another chance now. She said she was young and scared when I got pregnant, but she was older. I was 18 and she was my mother, so I let her speak freely. Then she said she would love to finally meet her granddaughter, which landed differently, not asking how Lily was, or if she was healthy, or if I was okay. She wanted access, and she wanted it immediately, so I told her no. Lily was not ready to meet her, so Victoria's face tightened in pure anger. "I have missed 5 years," she argued, but I reminded her that she chose to miss them. She flinched, then looked toward the driveway where Alessandro's car was parked outside. Her expression changed as her eyes moved from the car to the house and back. "How long has he been here?" she asked, but I did not give her an answer. She suddenly became interested in every detail of our new life together, asking many questions. Where we lived, how Alessandro was involved, and if Lily had met his family, whether they planned to travel to Switzerland, and if Lily had a trust fund. I stared at her as she tried to soften it, saying she only meant financially. That was the first red flag, and the second came when she talked about options, private schools, travel to Switzerland, and a completely different life for my daughter Lily. "She already has a life," I said as Victoria looked irritated by my sharp words. She left 20 minutes later, but then she started calling all of our relatives. Within days, I was hearing the same story from many different people everywhere. Victoria was telling everyone she made one mistake when I was young back then. She said she always loved me, but I refused to forgive her mistakes now. She said I was keeping Lily away because I was angry about the past. She never mentioned the locks, or the shelter, or the hospital where I gave birth. She never mentioned living 20 minutes away, and never checking if we were alive. I stopped responding, so one evening, Alessandro asked why I looked so exhausted today. I told him everything as he listened carefully, without interrupting my words at all. "Would you like me to find out what happened?" he asked while I almost laughed. "When I searched for you, my investigators found records about your family's actions back then." He placed a folder on the table and waited for me to open it up. Inside were copies of records from the first weeks after I left my home, shelter intake paperwork, emergency housing applications, and hospital records showing my struggles as a mother, documents showing I was 18 pregnant and without a stable home in those tough times. There was correspondence showing that Victoria had been contacted by the shelter staff back then. She had known where I was and known I needed help, yet she chose not to come. She had chosen not to come, while telling extended family I left voluntarily back then. I read that sentence twice before closing the folder and telling him I wanted no revenge. I just wanted her to stop rewriting what happened. So Alessandro nodded his head smoothly. "Do not let her control the story," he said, which became our strict rule going forward. No screaming matches, no social media war, and no public accusations between us at all. Just documentation, as every single voicemail went into a private folder for safekeeping. She contacted me on Victoria's behalf for every single attempt to reach Lily. I did not respond unless there was a reason, because Victoria did not like that. She began calling more often, then she started leaving messages about forgiveness today. She said I was punishing her, and that Lily deserved a grandmother now. She said I was being selfish, while the strangest part was how stories changed. To one relative, she was a heartbroken mother, but to another, a victim. To me, she was someone who made one mistake and wanted to move forward. None of those versions included the 5 years when I needed her most. Then Victoria showed up at Lily's school without telling anyone about it. The school administrator called me during work, so my hands went cold instantly. Victoria had introduced herself as a grandmother, asking about all pickup procedures. She wanted to know if she could be added as an emergency contact. The school refused to give her anything without my direct written permission. They had not told her Lily's classroom or given her a daily schedule. They had not even confirmed that Lily attended the school that sunny afternoon. But Victoria had tried, and that was enough to upset me completely. I left work immediately and went straight there to handle the whole situation. By the time I arrived, Victoria was gone, so I felt relieved inside. Lily was still outside with her class, completely unaware of the drama. I stood in the office and made it clear that she had no permission. Victoria could not pick Lily up or receive any information about her. The administrator documented everything carefully, as I explained the full situation to them. For the first time, this was not just family drama between us anymore. Victoria had crossed directly into Lily's world, which changed everything for me. That night, Alessandro came over, so I showed him all the school paperwork. He read it silently, then said we must ensure she cannot use him. I looked at him and asked what he meant by making that statement. "She may think my money changes the rules," he said, and he was right. The next morning, we met with lawyers and started putting formal protections inside. Nothing dramatic occurred, and there was no courtroom showdown between any of us. Just very clear boundaries so Lily's school would communicate only with me directly. Once everything was legally confirmed, they could speak to Alessandro as well. Victoria would receive nothing without my written permission, moving forward from today. Every attempt to access Lily would be documented in an official legal file. Until the DNA results came back, nobody made promises to Lily about Alessandro. That part mattered most to me because she was only 5 years old. She did not need adults turning her life into a big tug of war. Meanwhile, Alessandro's relationship with Lily grew very slowly over the next weeks. He did not show up with a sports car or designer toys today. He brought a simple soccer ball and asked her favorite color with a smile. He listened attentively when she talked, while Lily stayed close to me initially. Then one afternoon, she kicked the ball back to him on the grass. She asked why he talked funny, so he laughed and explained his heritage. He explained that he was from Switzerland, while she listened with great curiosity. She immediately asked whether Switzerland had McDonald's inside their large cities. He told her yes, so she looked relieved about the fast food options. It was the first time I saw them laugh together without forcing it. Then came the DNA results, which confirmed what we had suspected all along. Alessandro was Lily's biological father, but he did not celebrate or act loud. He sat quietly staring at the report, then he looked at Lily softly. "I missed 5 years," he said softly, so I reminded him he knew nothing. "That does not make me want them back any less," he said sadly. He did not ask me to forgive him for something he had not done. He asked what he could do now, which mattered so much to me. The legal paperwork followed, as Alessandro placed money into a protected account. He did not put it directly into my hands, which was very smart. The house he purchased was legally secured in my name for safety reasons. Everything was structured so Lily's future did not depend on our future agreement. For the first time, his wealth felt less like a threat to me. Victoria reacted badly and called me on the same night, sounding very angry. "You have changed," she claimed, but I said my circumstances had changed instead. "You are keeping my granddaughter away from me," she yelled into the phone. I told her Lily needs time, but she said I was just angry. "I am angry," I said as total silence filled the phone line. "I am still her grandmother," she said, but I answered her very clearly. "That relationship exists because of what you do now, not your title." She hung up, and 2 hours later, 3 relatives messaged me with demands. All 3 used identical language, saying families should forgive each other for everything. I saved all the messages, then I put my phone down to rest. The next week, Victoria sent me a letter that was 5 pages long. It started with an apology and ended with a list of strict demands. She wanted scheduled visits, holidays, photographs, and trips to Switzerland with my daughter. She suggested a joint family vacation without asking what Lily wanted at all. Most of it was about what Victoria believed she deserved from us now. I handed the letter to Alessandro, who read it once without saying anything. Then he looked at me, saying she still did not understand the real situation. "She thinks this is about access, but it is not," I told him. I folded the letter and put it into the evidence folder right away. Victoria spent 5 years pretending I did not exist in her quiet world. Now she wanted to pretend those 5 years had never happened to us, but I was not going to let her erase them from our history. The next confrontation came without any warning on a sunny Tuesday afternoon. Victoria appeared at my house again without flowers, looking extremely angry at me. "You cannot keep doing this," she shouted, so I stayed behind the door. "Doing what?" I asked, as she accused me of acting abandoned by her. "You did abandon me," I said, as I almost laughed at her words. "I was scared," she claimed, "but you changed the locks on my home." "I was trying to teach you responsibility," she said while I mentioned shelters. "I slept in a shelter, but she argued I was an adult then." "I was 18, I said, so she opened her mouth without words. Then Alessandro stepped into the hallway behind me, wearing a dark suit. Victoria's expression changed instantly as she straightened her clothes and acted polite. "Alessandro, I'm glad you are here. I wanted to meet properly." Alessandro did not offer his hand to Victoria at all today. You went to Lily's school, he said calmly, as Victoria froze immediately. I was only trying to help, she claimed, but he interrupted her. You had no permission, he said firmly, to approach our daughter. She is my granddaughter, Victoria argued, while looking very desperate now. Alessandro's voice stayed calm as he told her that gave no access. Victoria looked at me, then at him, and then back at me. You have turned him against me, she lied, but I disagreed. No, I said, because you did that to yourself instead. Her eyes filled with tears while I thought she might say truth. Instead, she whispered, after everything I have done for you back then. That sentence told me everything I needed to know about her mind. She still believed that motherhood was a debt I owed her. I closed the door while Victoria stood outside for several seconds. Then I heard her footsteps, moving away from my front porch. Inside, Alessandro looked at me, asking if I was okay now. I nodded my head, but I knew this was not over. Victoria spent 5 years controlling the family narrative without any challenge. Now she had something she could not control with hard evidence. She had a granddaughter she could no longer reach by rewriting history. 3 days after Victoria came to my house, I received a letter. It came from a family mediator saying Victoria agreed to mediation. That surprised me because she spent weeks insisting on immediate access. I expected another stunt or another round of relatives calling my phone. Instead, the formal letter contained strict conditions for her to follow. Victoria had to acknowledge what she had done to us previously. She had to agree that contact with Lily was my decision. She had to stop contacting Lily's school without my direct consent. If she wanted any chance of rebuilding a relationship, she needed change. She had to demonstrate actual change rather than simply demanding forgiveness now. I read the letter twice, then sent it to Alessandro right away. He called me within 10 minutes asking what I wanted to do. I looked at the kitchen table where Lily was coloring pictures. I will go, I said, though I was not completely sure. But I am going anyway to face her in the room. The mediation office was downtown, inside a quiet building with frosted doors. There was no dramatic courtroom atmosphere, which made it so much harder. There was nowhere for Victoria to hide behind a judge or lawyers. It would just be the three of us and a mediator. Victoria arrived early wearing a navy dress with a leather folder. When I walked inside the room, she stood up from her chair. For half a second, she looked like my mother once again. Then I remembered that appearances were how she controlled people before. We sat across from each other while the mediator explained rules. No interrupting, no threats, no blaming, and no promises about Lily. Most importantly, Victoria had to speak for herself during this session. She could not send relatives or use Alessandro to gain control. She could not make me the villain and ask others for pressure. Then the mediator looked at Victoria, asking for a full AC acknowledgement. Before we discuss future contact, acknowledge what happened, the mediator said. Victoria swallowed hard, saying she knew she made mistakes back then. Specific actions, the mediator said, while Victoria looked at my face. I said nothing, so she opened her folder with trembling hands. I kicked you out when you were 18, she admitted softly. My jaw tightened as she admitted changing the locks on me. She stopped, while total silence filled the room for a moment. I refuse to help you, she said, with her voice cracking. I did not visit you, she said, looking down at papers. I knew you were pregnant, she whispered, taking a deep breath. Another pause happened, as she admitted knowing I was homeless then. Her hands began shaking, as she admitted knowing where I gave birth. She could not look at me, as she confessed not going. That was the first time I heard her say those words, but she was not finished, admitting she lied to everyone around. I told people you ran away, she dropped her voice low. I told them you were a disgrace. While the mediator listened. Anything else? The mediator asked, as Victoria closed her eyes tight. I told Denise not to help you, she confessed in tears. I felt something shift inside me, but I did not speak. Why? The mediator asked, so Victoria took a deep breath. I was angry, she said, but that was no explanation. Victoria's eyes filled with tears as she admitted her shame. Of what? The mediator asked, and she answered that it was me. There it was, the truth she avoided for 5 long years. She'd been ashamed of having a pregnant 18-year-old. She was concerned with her image, rather than my safety back then. Victoria wiped her face, saying she thought I would realize my mess. I stared at her, saying I realized I could not depend. She started crying, but I did not rush to comfort her. I did not tell her it was okay, because I understood. The mediator asked what Victoria wanted now from this whole process. I want to know Lily, she said, after several long seconds. But I also want my daughter back, she added, looking up. I shook my head, saying she could not skip earning trust. I know, she said, but I told her that she did not. If you knew, you would not ask before earning anything back. She nodded slowly, as the mediator asked about entering therapy now. Yes, she said, agreeing to attend weekly sessions as long as necessary. Do you understand that Lily may not want contact? She was asked. Victoria hesitated, which told me everything before she finally said yes. What if Lily does not want to see you? The mediator asked. Victoria's face crumpled as she promised to respect Lily's personal choice. I watched her carefully, believing that answer for the very first time, not because it sounded sincere, but because it cost her something real. We agreed on 6 months of documented therapy before any unsupervised contact. There would be no overnight visits or trips out of state, no promises about vacations, or gifts designed to win affection today, no telling Lily that her mother kept them apart from each other, no asking Lily to keep secrets or contact the school without permission during these upcoming months. And if Victoria crossed any boundaries, the arrangement would stop immediately. Victoria signed the document, then I signed, and the mediator signed last. When it was over, Victoria asked if she could hug me. I shook my head, so she lowered her arms slowly now. That was important because she finally asked instead of just taking. I left the building without looking back at her at all. Outside, Alessandro was waiting in the car patiently for my return. He did not ask what happened until we were halfway home. She admitted everything, I said as he glanced at me softly. Everything? He asked. So I told him that she admitted almost. And she agreed to therapy, I said, while he nodded quietly. That sounds like progress, he said, but I disagreed with him. One meeting is not progress, I replied as he smiled faintly. You are right, he said, because I have always needed actions. He simply supported the boundaries that I set for our daughter. A week later, Victoria sent proof of her first session. Then another proof came, and then another came, week after week. No dramatic letters arrived, and no relatives called my phone anymore. No surprise visits happened, but just documentation of her ongoing therapy. It was almost unsettling, as I expected her to crack soon. She did not crack, which made me far more cautious now. At the same time, Alessandro and I built a better relationship. He wanted more time with Lily, but I moved very slowly. We disagreed for the first time over a whole week's stay. She is not ready, I said, though she seems happy. She asks when I'm coming back, he said to me, because being excited for visits is not being ready to go. I can handle it, he said. But this was not about him. He looked frustrated, as I saw a big argument coming soon. What does her therapist think? He asked, changing the whole conversation. We checked with the therapist and agreed on a gradual schedule. Alessandro accepted it with no guilt trips or heavy pressure at all. Meanwhile, Victoria continued therapy, while the mediator sent me updates showing attendance. Then came the first real test when Victoria asked for an invitation. Victoria asked whether she could attend Lily's big birthday party today. My first instinct was no, but I remembered our strict agreement. She followed every rule, so I let her attend for 30 minutes, supervised, with no gifts, and she accepted the offer immediately then. On the morning of Lily's birthday, I expected some huge disaster. Instead, the day was almost normal, as Lily ran around outside. Alessandro helped set up tables while balloons and cake were ready. Then Victoria arrived, standing near the far edge of the park. She did not rush toward Lily or bring a giant present. She did not make a speech, but waited for us quietly. Lily eventually noticed her and asked if that was her grandma. I nodded my head as Lily asked if she could say hi. That question hit harder than anything Victoria said during official mediation. Of course, I said, so Lily walked over to greet her. Victoria crouched down and said hi to my young daughter. Are you really my grandma? Lily asked, while Victoria started crying. Yes, Victoria replied, as tears filled her eyes in that moment. Lily asked her favorite animal, while looking back at me softly. Victoria laughed through tears, saying dogs were her absolute favorite animal. Mine is a dolphin, Lily said, and Victoria agreed with her. It was not a magical reunion, with no dramatic hug given. For 30 minutes, they colored together at a small wooden table. When the timer ended, Victoria stood up, saying she had fun. Lily nodded okay, as I gave Victoria a small, quiet nod. That night, Lily asked if Grandma was staying with us now. Adults must show they are safe before getting more time. I chose my words carefully, saying she made choices that hurt us. Is she still bad? Lily asked, pulling her blanket higher. No, I answered, surprising even myself with those soft words. People can make bad choices and still choose to do better. Like when I broke your lamp? Lily asked while I laughed. Exactly like that because you stopped throwing balls inside the house? So Grandma has to stop doing bad stuff too, Lily said. She rolled over, ending that short conversation on her own terms. 3 months passed as Victoria kept attending her weekly required therapy. She respected every boundary and stopped asking relatives to intervene at all. She did not contact the school or post about Lily online. She did not claim she was entitled to a granddaughter now. For the first time, her behavior was boring, which was good. Then the mediator scheduled another review to check on her progress. Victoria arrived carrying another folder without crying this single time. She handed over therapy records, showing she completed every session required. The mediator asked if she wanted additional privileges moving forward now. I want to ask for more time eventually, Victoria said softly. When Natalie thinks it is appropriate, she added, looking at me. That answer mattered. because she was not demanding a specific date. She was waiting for my final decision on the matter now. We can increase visits slowly, I said, as Victoria nodded smoothly. Don't thank me yet, I warned while she gave a smile. The mediator approved short outings, with supervision required for all visits. Still no overnight visits, and no travel without my express permission. Victoria accepted every rule, showing real change for the first time. As we walked out, she stopped beside me and accepted every single condition. I know you may never forgive me, she said, but I did not answer. I used to think forgiveness meant pretending something never happened at all. She looked exhausted, as she said therapy taught her that was wrong. What did it teach you? I asked, so she looked at my face. It taught me that you don't owe me anything from the past. That sentence stayed with me, because Victoria acted like I owed her. Now she was finally admitting the truth, that she was totally wrong. I did not hug her or say everything was fixed between us. I did not suddenly call her mom like nothing had ever happened. I simply said, keep doing the work. And she nodded her head. I will, she said, and then she walked away from me. Alessandro was waiting outside and asked how the whole meeting went. Different, I said, while watching Victoria disappear around the quiet corner. Good different, he asked, but I told him I did not know yet. Fair, he said as we drove back home to see Lily. Lily was waiting for us with a drawing from school today. She held it up proudly, showing 3 people standing by a house. Me, her, and Alessandro were all drawn together on the paper. Then in the corner, she drew another person, who was Victoria. Underneath it, in crooked letters, she wrote the simple word, family. I stared at the picture, thinking about what family really meant. Sometimes family was the person who finally stopped demanding things from you, and sometimes it was the child who wanted everyone to treat better. The next 6 months were the first time Victoria proved herself. There were no dramatic speeches or surprise visits at my house. She went to therapy every week, showing up for supervised visits. She followed every rule we agreed on without complaining to anyone. When Lily did not want to visit, Victoria accepted it quietly. That was the part I watched most closely during those long months. Anyone could behave for a few days, but months were different. Victoria did not ask for exceptions or complain about strict restrictions. She did not mention Switzerland or ask Alessandro for any special favors. She did not post photographs online, but simply kept showing up. Lily slowly noticed, calling her grandma after dropping the full name. Grandma, look, Lily shouted, holding up a purple dolphin drawing. Victoria looked up from the book, laughing at the funny crown. That is the most beautiful dolphin I have ever seen today. He is a queen, Lily said as Victoria agreed with her. I watched from across the room, amazed by their peaceful moment. It was not full forgiveness, but it was building real trust slowly. Trust was being built, one boring day at a time for us. Alessandro had changed too, learning that money could not buy love. The first few months, his instinct was solving problems with money. Expensive toys, private lessons, and a new house were offered constantly. I taught him that giving everything was not being a real father. He listened to me, especially when he wanted a costly dollhouse. Absolutely not, I said, pointing out that Lily was only 5. She deserves you, I said, so he went completely quiet then. Take her to the science center and build something with her. He closed the catalog and took her to the science center. They came home covered in glitter from a fun children's experiment. Lily talked about it for 40 minutes, forgetting all about dollhouses. Money could give Lily opportunities, but it could not give memories. He learned her bedtime routine, remembering that she hated green peas. He knew which cartoons she liked and carried snacks in car. He even learned how to braid her hair after watching videos. The first attempt looked terrible, but Lily loved it so much. We were not dating, but we became very good co-parents. We became good friends, which gave Lily the stability she needed. We made a calendar with stickers, showing when he would visit. Purple hearts meant video calls, while stars meant long weekend visits. Airplanes meant travel, so Lily knew when she would see him. Victoria reached the same stage as her visits increased to hours. She took Lily to the park while I watched from nearby. She taught me paper flowers, Lily said, holding Victoria's warm hand. Victoria looked at me, so I gave her a small smile. The first time Victoria asked for unsupervised time, she asked softly whether I thought she was ready, so I told her I was not sure. She nodded softly, saying that was okay, with a small smile. That response mattered so much because she finally stopped treating my boundaries. They were true boundaries, and she was learning to live with them. Around the same time, something unexpected happened with my sister, Denise Brooks. She stopped being the messenger between us after passing emotional pressure. Now Denise finally told her that it was totally over today. If you have something to say to Natalie, say it to her. Victoria apparently argued, but Denise did not choose any sides anymore. She told her she was going to choose herself from now on. Afterward, Denise called me, saying she should have done it years ago. You helped me when nobody else did, so I understood her completely. I was scared, she admitted, while there was a long silence. Then she laughed, asking to talk about something that was not Mom. I laughed too, as that became our brand new, healthy relationship. We met for coffee and talked about work, movies, and delicious food, random things sisters actually talked about when they were not trapped. For the first time, Denise was just my sister, which felt so good. My own life changed too. With Alessandro's financial support structured legally, I did not have to work every available shift at the restaurant. I went back to school when community college accepted me spring semester. The first time I opened my class schedule, I stared at it. English composition, business fundamentals, and accounting were all on my schedule. 6 years earlier, I walked 4 miles to work before sunrise daily. Now I was buying textbooks, which was better, because it was mine. I still worked part-time because I wanted to keep working, not because I was terrified that one missed paycheck brought disaster. That difference changed everything, while the old apartment stayed in memory. The mold, the roaches, and the drawer where Lily slept back then. I did not romanticize any of it, because surviving was not beautiful. Surviving meant I got to build something much better afterward now. The biggest test came when Alessandro returned to Switzerland for weeks. Lily had grown attached to him, watching his car disappear outside. She looked worried, so I crouched beside her to give comfort. "He is coming back on Friday when you see airplane stickers." She counted the days, saying there were 5 sleeps remaining now. She seemed satisfied, so that night Alessandro video called from Switzerland. Lily showed him every single thing inside her bedroom with excitement. Her stuffed animals, her drawings, and a rock she found at school. A plastic bracelet was shown, while he listened to every detail. When the call ended, Lily put a purple heart sticker down. "Daddy is coming back," she said, so I smiled at her. The word still felt strange, but Lily said it naturally now. Daddy was a title that Alessandro had truly earned from her. Victoria kept going to therapy. As the 1-year review arrived, the mediator told me she completed the program and respected boundaries. That did not erase the past or make 5 years vanish, but it proved something, because people could actually change for good. The harder question was whether Victoria had a permanent place here. I did not have an answer, until Lily answered it herself. "Can Grandma come to my school play?" Lily asked one evening. "Do you want her there?" I asked, so she nodded yes. "Then she can come," I said, allowing her to attend. That was the first time Victoria attended an event without supervision. She sat in the back without embarrassing Lily or making speeches. She watched quietly until the play ended and Lily ran over. "You were amazing," Victoria said, kneeling down to hug her softly. "Nobody noticed you forgot a line, so next time I'll help." I watched them hug without feeling threatened, but staying cautious instead. Caution was earned wisdom, while fear belonged to my past life. Months later, Victoria asked if she could have Lily all Saturday. I said yes, so she asked to take her somewhere special. I told her where, and she agreed without any pushing at all. No argument happened, showing me that the change was very real. Access to Lily was a privilege, not an entitlement, for anyone. Alessandro and I continued building our own co-parenting system smoothly. He visited regularly, and sometimes the 3 of us went together. There was no forced romance or fairy tale wedding between us. When his family invited us to Switzerland, we said no today. Lily was not ready, so Alessandro supported my final decision fully. Everyone could wait because Lily always came first in our lives. One evening after Lily went to bed, we sat together quietly. "You know, when I found you, I thought money fixed everything." "It does not," I laughed, as he looked toward her bedroom. "But she has everything she needs," he said, so I smiled. "Make sure she does," I said, while he nodded his head softly. "That sounds better," he said, because the true reality was clear now. Because the truth was that Alessandro had not rescued us at all. He had arrived late, very late, to fulfill his original duty. He had a responsibility to his daughter, and was finally meeting it. I was the one who carried Lily through those long years alone. That distinction mattered to me, because I wanted no false stories told. I never wanted Lily growing up believing a rich man saved us. She was raised by a mother who refused to give up. Alessandro simply became part of the life we had already built, and Victoria was no longer the person controlling the front door now. She had once decided whether I belonged in her house back then. Now she stood outside my life waiting for permission to enter. That reversal was never something I planned in my mind at all. It happened because I stopped accepting the rules she wrote for me. One Sunday morning, I found Lily sitting on the living room floor. 3 photographs were spread in front of her on the carpet. One was of me, one was of Alessandro, and one was Victoria. She looked up and asked if she could put them in her room. I sat beside her, telling her that she certainly could do that. She arranged them carefully on a small shelf by her bed. "Now everyone is here," she said, while stepping back to look. I looked at those 3 photographs, knowing scars remained underneath them. There always would be scars, but the picture itself was real. Not perfect, not simple, but just real for all of us. That night, after Lily fell asleep, I stood in her doorway quietly. The apartment was quiet as her backpack was ready for school tomorrow. Her purple stickers covered the calendar hanging on the blue wall. A photo of her with Alessandro sat beside her school books. Another photo showed her laughing with Denise at a sunny park. On the shelf was the picture including Victoria in her young life. 6 years earlier, I sat outside a house with garbage bags. I had no money, no plan, and no mother willing to help. I thought losing that house meant I lost everything, but I was wrong. I lost a house, and I lost the illusion of protection. I lost the version of family I had been taught to believe, but I built something else, because I built a real home. I raised Lily, and I found my way back to school. I learned how to set boundaries without apologizing to anyone for them. I learned that forgiveness was not a debt anyone could owe. I learned that people who wanted a place had to earn it, and someone could arrive late without rewriting who carried you through. Victoria had a place now, which was smaller than she wanted. It was conditional, and it had strict boundaries, but it was real. Alessandro had a place too, not as a rescuer, but a father. And I finally had a place that nobody could take away. My own place in this world, built with my own hands. The next morning, Lily came running into my room before sunrise. "Mom, wake up," she shouted, jumping onto my bed with joy. "It is Friday," she said, so I sat up, asking her why. "Daddy comes today," she cheered, before adding another fun detail. "And Grandma is coming Sunday," she said, holding her calendar proudly. "You remember everything," I laughed, looking at the life we built. There was no perfect ending, but nobody was throwing us out. Nobody was deciding whether we deserved to belong in this world. That decision was finally ours, and that was more than enough.